1. I am a bartender. Our bar is a tight squeeze as we have a smaller space and a large, loyal following of people. We had several large parties last night, and as a result our servers and bartenders only had one path to and from the service well and to the kitchen. Let's call this lady Moron. Moron and her husband greet their friends that are already at the bar. Instead of sitting in the 4 seats to the left of their friends, Moron and her husband stand directly in front of our service well, smack dab in the middle of our only walking path. There was one chair in the service well, but it was moved to make room for the band that was playing. They stood there for about 10 minutes before I asked them to move to the seats directly in front of the bar. Moron is not a small person, she is a much larger person. I'm not judging, as I am not a small person, but we were unable to walk around her. But as I was starting my sentence and explaining the reason we needed her to move, she starts yelling about why there would be a chair sitting there if we didn't want people to sit there. I tried explaining the reason, and she would just keep talking over me. She eventually moved, but proceeded to continuously bitch about it while sitting at the bar. The owners were standing in the service well, directing us on a few things that needed to be done, and she got out of her chair and began to berate them for moving her so that they could be there. We tried to explain that the service well is for staff only, and she is directing her staff, but again, she sat back down and did nothing but bitch about it. She wouldn't let it go. The owner approached me and asked me to send their party an entire round of drinks on the house. I absolutely refused. If we messed up, then absolutely, but I will not be rewarding garbage behavior. Today she wrote a review. She stated that we were rude and kicked her out of her seat for the owners to sit. We have a young server who kept having to run food, and he couldn't get around, so he likely bumped her a few times, but in her review she said, "You have a man boy who intentionally hip-checked me to get me out of the way." She also stated we were horrible human beings and karma will get us. Why are some people so difficult? Why won't my owner allow me to respond to the review? Some days people test me. Rant over. 2. Holy shit, tonight was one of those nights. For perspective, our dinner shift starts at 4 p.m., with 2 hosts and 2 servers, average for a Sunday. We're a small local business with seating for about 50 at absolute full capacity. It hits 8 p.m., slow as ever. 1 host and 1 server are allowed to cut and go home early. 8:15, we close at 9:45, a table of 12 comes in, no reservation. Whatever, I seat them, and offer my help to the servers since their other table needs checks ran. 8:30, a table of what we're told is 8 comes in, no reservation again, after moving more tables around and probably violating a fire code, or 2, they're seated. A table of 12 is ordering, and table of 8 is informing us that they're actually going to be 14. Both me and the server are pissed. I call my boss and set our Uber Eats and DoorDash tablets on busy. Now both of us are in high gear, running drinks, soups, appetizers, and entrees. All the while, I have to also be inputting online orders. Old point-of-sale system, packing orders, checking in on the server's other tables, and turning down new dine-in customers due to the situation. Everyone gets their food. Table of 12 finishes first, pays, no problem. Good tips to the server. 9:50, table of 14 asks for desserts with birthday candles, and if we could turn the music and lights off to sing happy birthday. Whatever. We run to the back, get everything ready, then sing. Someone finally asks for the check, but in their haste the server printed the check from the table of 12 and delivered it to them. They put their card down, I took the check and card and asked the server if they added gratuity. The server said they totally forgot. Went into the correct check, added gratuity, printed, had me deliver it, and explain our 20% gratuity policy on tables of 6 or more. They refused the bill and pointed out that the original check they were given was different from the one I just delivered. I apologized and told them I'd bring the server over, who was in the kitchen cleaning and trying to close up. They argued with the server about the check for another 15 minutes, paid, sat around for another 30. Eventually, they got up and said goodbyes, leaving their table a huge mess, no plates stacked or anything. Great. Luckily, as a host, I'm paid hourly. I let the server know I got it from here and to run their personal report ASAP, so I can run the whole house report and go home. Me and the busser make quick work of the messy table and dishes. I rearrange the tables, flip the chairs, run my report, run the whole house report, put both in the back office, and finally 10:57, I clock out and walk home. To clarify a few other things, 1, both of the large tables were accepted initially, since the total amount of guests was 20, and I could take care of the remaining tables they had, running checks, getting drinks, etc. 2, the receipt mistake was our server's fault, though it was an honest mistake. They calmly explained and apologized, and it's not required for us to notify guests about our gratuity policy since it's a common food service policy. 3, I called boss just to let them know we had 2 large tables in tonight, and that we may be open later than usual. Boss has a security system that sends notifications if the doors are locked or unlocked beyond closed or open hours. 3. Not seeking legal advice, simply want to know if I should work tomorrow or quit immediately. My current employer is a restaurant that's been open since mid-October. I've been here since the day we opened. Starting Sunday, my employer has been notifying the employees one by one that our wage is cut effective immediately, and there is a new tipping procedure in place. Up until now, we didn't operate traditionally. We received $18 an hour instead of the tipped wage in our province, $12.20. Instead of splitting the tips granted to us by guests of the restaurant, we shared a percentage of net sales of the night that came out about 3 to 5% per person depending on the evening. Now they are apparently implementing the legal tipped wage and a new tipping structure. Also, we are in the middle of a pay period, so I don't know how that's going to look on our next paychecks. According to the law in my province, an employer cannot interfere with our tips, nor can they dictate a tip-sharing agreement. Tip-sharing agreements are legally decided by the workers who receive tips, not the employer. Their proposed new tipping structure includes sharing the tips among waiters, 1 point, the kitchen staff, half a point, busboys, half a point, the shareholder and coordinator of the restaurant, half a point, and the back of the house to cover breakage and credit card fees, 1 point, same as waiters. Needless to say, I know all of this is illegal. They can't implement a tipping structure that's on the employees, not the employers. I'm due to work tomorrow, as my manager is telling us one by one whenever our shift starts, instead of all together. In my opinion, this is a strategy to intimidate us and make us agree without realizing what we're agreeing to. Hellfreezer's note, agreeing to something illegal does not excuse your employer from that illegal behavior. I haven't formally been notified of the changes yet. So I know tomorrow I'll be walking into a shit show. I know I'll roll up tomorrow, and my boss will tell me, "By the way, your wage is cut effective immediately and the tipping structure has changed." I know this is illegal. But also, it's the middle of February in Canadian winter. It's definitely not hiring season. I know our previous system was shit, but this one is even worse. Was planning on leaving in April as things warm up, but here we are. I don't know what to do. I absolutely don't agree to the new terms, and also, they aren't legal, but I feel my hands are tied. I'm so upset and exasperated right now. Okay, Hellfreezer's note. I know 2 in 1 story, imagine that. Not knowing how the labor laws work in Canada, I'd imagine there's some sort of labor board that's there to protect employees and prevent shady actions like this. If you're planning to leave in April anyway, I would just call them. Do it anonymously if you can, but get it done. Get the ball rolling on that, because sometimes these things can take time, and with any luck, some of the other employees will have the courage to do it too. 4. To sum up my story, female, 20, never served in my life before I took a serving role. Had 2 days training before being on my own. Good service. I consistently get between 25 to 50% gratuity on bills, etc. My restaurant also has only been open since October last year. Essentially, I'm trying to say I know I'm a high performer, but I do not want to be conceited. My situation at work. Anyways, my job. The host picks sections for the servers. The host is also the son of the owner. My manager is a very non-confrontational person and I believe afraid to say anything to him. I, however, have become a victim of workplace mobbing, starting with the host, and I'm going crazy. I typically would get 5 tables and large parties. Now, only get maybe 2 tables on a good day, and 1 or 2 person parties. The host is rude, and by rude, I mean to the fact that we as a restaurant have 1-star Google reviews because of an unprofessional or mean interaction with the host. I also had a great relationship with all my coworkers, but not long after did I start to get left out, as if I did something wrong out of nowhere. Example, I walk into the kitchen, everyone walks out and stops talking or starts whispering. I genuinely feel like I'm going insane, and I've now confronted my boss on this 4 times. I know I'm not imagining it because there were 5+ other servers where this happened to them and they quit. Not sure for the same reason, but still. My job also does not have an HR department because it is family owned. My city does not have many serving positions open, so I am afraid to quit. Question: what do I do? Have any of you been through this as well? It's starting to take a toll on my mental health big time, and I have tried confronting him, but he genuinely will just look at me and pretend he doesn't hear me. I could ask him a reasonable question, and he'll laugh at me and call others over to laugh. This happened yesterday, when I asked him if it was alright to switch to the dinner menu during lunch. Pretty normal question, if you ask me. Hellfreezer's note. Yeah, quit, but don't do it right away. You gotta be smart about this. Unless you have what I like to call fuck you money in the bank. Simply, it means you can go to your boss and say, fuck you, I quit, and live off that until you get something else. You gotta work there until you get something else. Right? So, you've been working for a bit, you've got some experience, wouldn't put your current employer down as a reference, but start sending out resumes, start applying to places that are taking on other servers. Walk into places, see if it's an old-fashioned technique, but it used to be if you wanted to work in a place like a restaurant or a bar or anywhere like that, you'd walk in and ask, hey, you're hiring. They might be, they might not. The worst they can say is no. So, that's my advice. Start looking for somewhere else, keep working there right now because you need the wage, and when you have a new job, providing it's legal to do so where you live, don't give them notice, just don't go back. They wouldn't do you the courtesy if they were thinking of firing you, so why should you show them that same courtesy if you really don't have to? Unless, of course, you're going to use them as a reference, which I wouldn't recommend. It doesn't sound like they'd give you a good one. They're not very nice-sounding people. Okay, end of rant. 5. So, for some background information, I started working at this restaurant for around 4 months now. It's family-owned, and we don't have a manager, rather, the owner of the restaurant and her husband come in throughout the day. I mean, throughout the day she comes in and leaves when she pleases. We don't have a bartender, so she bartends for us at night. Although, sometimes when we need her, she's just not there or just doesn't show up at all. Sometimes my paycheck changes depending on the week, since I get a weekly pay and $2.15 an hour. I didn't recently get paid this week since she had said it was because of tax purposes. Now, I never really had an issue with her until later on. I wasn't able to go to a wedding for my long-distance family because she had wanted to go to her daughter's volleyball game, and told me I had to stay because my other coworker had to go to a birthday party. I wasn't mad about that because I didn't inform her of it right away, but when she told me that she used to have breast cancer and took medicine for it every day, My coworker debunked this and told me that her brother had said that nothing was wrong with her. I wasn't able to clock out because she hadn't come to the restaurant, like usual, when I had to leave to go to the wedding, so I just told her to stay and spend time with her daughter. Then the next day, she told me she almost cried when she saw my text. And because I was overwhelmed, I started crying because I'm sensitive, and I had missed my cousin's wedding. She would argue, with another server because she always had to be right. Every time they had a disagreement, she would pull me up and another server on the side and complain about the other server. She would even bring up his personal life, such as why he got fired at his previous job. I just simply listened because I'm not going to argue with my employer, even though he can and shouldn't. I had even told her before that I did not want to serve a racist customer because behind another server's back they were making fun of her accent. And she simply said that it was because it's America and knowing English is everything. I recently had an oil change on Valentine's Day that I did inform her of and sent her a picture to prove it. I later learned from another server that she thought I was lying about my whereabouts, even though I took a clear picture of the dealership and a PDF that stated that I was at the dealership. I also learned today that she had been lying about being with her daughter on the day she said she was leaving to be with her daughter. I haven't been at this job for a long time. 4 months is 4 months. On a normal night, I get like $30. The most I make in like a week is $70 in a day. There's also only 3 servers. So, the question is, should I just quit? And Hellfreezer's note, yeah, you should just quit, but as I always say in situations like this, don't shoot yourself in the foot unless you have enough savings to tide you over until you have another job. Stay there, look for another job. When you have another one, leave. It's a very toxic environment. It's a very deceitful environment. You certainly aren't getting respected there, and I doubt that's going to change. If people, the other employees, are supporting this woman and backing up the way she acts and not standing up to her for fear of being fired, she's going to think she can do no wrong, and she'll keep at it. It's a sad and unfortunate situation, but toxic behavior will just beget more toxic behavior. And that's my 2 cents. Maybe 3 cents. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode number 239. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit that like button, and share the video with friends and family. If you'd like early access to these videos, then that's pretty easy. You can get that by supporting me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. I post them there on Monday at the latest. Well, Tuesday at the latest, but it's generally Monday. Sometimes late Monday, like just before midnight. You'll also find a link in there to the Hellfreezer merchandise store, which is located on Teespring. And if you really like today's video, and you have to leave some sort of a tip, oh, alright then. You can do it by clicking on the heart with a $sign in the middle underneath the video. But you don't have to, and please don't think you ever have to. But I'm very grateful if you do, and I do appreciate it. It helps a lot. Okay, don't think we've any other business there today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question comes thanks to my very lovely fiancé, Jack, and that is, who is your favorite himbo, and why is it Markiplier? I think they might be a little biased there, but who is your favorite himbo? We have to be careful here because it could be in real life. It could be a fictional character. It might be safer if it was a fictional character. But why don't you let me know what your opinions are in a comment below. Now, who is my goodness, let's see. Oh, there it is. I didn't even have to think about that long. My favorite himbo character is Jason Mendoza from The Good Place. Now, he, if you haven't seen The Good Place, I'm not going to describe the plot too heavily, but basically, a woman named Eleanor dies, goes to the afterlife, finds herself in what is basically heaven, the good place. but she realizes very quickly that she's not meant to be there. At some point during the show, a character called Jason Mendoza shows up, and he's from Jacksonville, Florida. He loves the Jacksonville Jaguars, is that what they are? And is a huge fan of Blake Bortles. And penguins. I look forward to reading your answers in a comment below, but before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this comes from Spinning Plates 200, and the question, I believe, was, what is your favorite so bad it's good movie? And today's answer comes from Tara M. McQueen. Oof, I have a list because I love bad movies, but The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a big one, as is the 2003 Disney live-action Three Musketeers. I'm not sure if I've seen the Disney Musketeers movie, but I have seen League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I think it's not too bad as a movie. It's not really great as an adaptation, I don't think, from what I recall. I've read a lot of the comics it was based on, but that was a while, so my memory's a little hazy. Although there's one scene in there that they didn't adapt, and I'm quite grateful they didn't adapt because... Anyway, with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.